What's up, Matt? All right, everyone who's ever here, just come on in, say hi. All right, let me do this here. Oops. Hey, Costa. Hey, David. What's up? What's up? What's up? Let me just share and open this thing here. Not sure where Guy is. All right. All right, we'll give people just a minute here to get on. One of them being Guy. Where is... there we go. All right. There's a lot of stuff to set up before you go live. All right. Kathleen, good morning. Tom Downs. Sounds like a new name. Tom, is this your first time here? And I think Costa, I think this might be your first time. Tell me if I'm not mistaken. Okay, hold on, guys. Having just technical difficulties getting on. Okay, here we go. Yo, yo.
Hey, man. Can you give me the video, please?
Yep. There's no link in the back office for this today for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I know what's going on with that. Anyway.
I create a new one.
Am I coming through okay?
Yep. You're good.
Okay, cool. I don't know. My connection seems like it's a little bit low, but let's see what we can do here.
All right. We got some newbies here today.
Sweet.
Yeah, we got Tom Downs, who's this is his first time. Welcome, buddy. Curious how you found us, if you don't mind sharing. And we also have, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but Costa McKay, who watched a live that we did with Marcy in Colombia and is here joining us for this today. And we got some of the old gang back together. You there? You're muted.
I'm muted. Yeah, but I'm here.
Okay, cool. All right, man. So let's kick this off. We'll just go as we go. Oh, we got another one. Christoph Spiesens. First time from Manchester.
Nice.
Awesome. Welcome, guys. Great to have some new.
Why don't you kick off the conversation?
New blood and faces. Well, I wanted to hear about your exciting few days.
Specifically with Anna yesterday?
Anna with Mateo?
So I'm not at liberty to say anything about what happened there. So part of what's come into my field is this idea of clearance of what you can and cannot share. And what I need to take ownership of is that I've been running public experiments on people without letting them know that I'm running public experiments on them. And so like kind of, this is what I can share is like, what's coming through me needs to be tested, just like you would optimize a funnel. And just being much more conscious of there's certain people not ready to listen to that kind of stuff, and it might leave them in a not so great way. Looking at that stuff. So like with my inner circle, I can manage that because I have seen some people have breakdowns based on what I'm sharing, like because it's like a identity crusher. And then there's all this stuff that comes up, but when it's like my inner circle, I can manage that and make sure that I'm, helping them and taking care of them. When I publicly do that, I'm not. So it's actually like creating these concentric circles of where it's appropriate to share things and where it's not. Okay. And I can see that I've been throwing out like these public bombs because part of me, honestly, if I'm being super honest, likes that. It's like, hey, look at what's happening, look at my brain, and I get, some kind of like value fulfillment from that. And I'm really not committed to getting value that way in my life. I'm really not committed to getting value or love in my life. That's not coming from within. Everything else I want it to be like a bonus. So I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I'm getting value from this, and it's like, and I'm not being responsible for what it might be creating out there. So it's like just getting responsible for that. And something else that kind of came into, my experiences, like these ideas of like grace periods. You have like a grace period where you can go and like push really hard into plant medicines. You can push really hard into your own development. And it's just like knowing about integrity and responsibility. Yeah. When you first learn about it, there's like this grace period with it, and you can operate in those parameters, but like kind of fuck it up a lot because you don't really know. So there's like this grace period, but once that like is locked in, like grace period's done, like time to operate at a higher game. Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing. Like the moment you start realizing this clearance thing, and it does, so that like clearance can come from there. Like you can check in with them and ask, but it's also like a vibrational frequency in your body, right? You know what feels good, what doesn't feel good. And there's like a sense of clearance about that. So I even with like our group coaching, it's actually irresponsible for me to share that level of stuff. That's really, I think more at this time, it's to share more of like the conscious languaging. That area would probably serve them better than to start throwing these like giant ideas at them that are like, holy fuck, which might create even like a sense of comparison. Like, how come I'm not operating that way? Yeah. Not responsible. Right. So yeah, just looking at that and like feeling into what clearance looks like. The other stuff I'm really not at liberty to share. Like, I just can't, even with you. And there's stuff about you that I'm feeling into whether it's time to share that with you. So don't take that personal, anybody else, because there's stuff with my family that I can't say. Or at least now it doesn't feel like it's time to say it. And so there's like this idea of like incubating on ideas and like kind of like waiting for it to be the right moment to share that. And I think this is kind of what's happening with disclosure, kind of what's happening with transformation. The people who are really playing games at the high end, they really let things incubate and they start sharing it with like small concentric circles, collecting the data, making sure. And that's kind of like, what we want to get to is with our training is if I'm going to say something, I know with a high level of confidence how that's going to impact people or what their response is going to be. And I'm not saying like control and manipulate, but like, there's certain things that you've learned over the last 10, 15 years of doing developmental work that you say this, it's going to create with predictable response in somebody. And that's like good. Like that's the response you want to create. You want to create that programming. So again, it's just being more conscious of that, and not deriving value from just like, hey, look what I'm doing, look what I can do, that kind of shit. So that's number one. On the Anna front, it's really a lot of the stuff that they taught. I kind of had a sense of.
Well, let's give people background. Yeah. So Anna is someone who's done readings for both Guy and I. She basically has the gift to channel spirits and angels and your spirits, your angels, and your guides. She also has the ability to be able to see a human body in 5 different dimensions, from like the cellular level to the emotional level to the energistic level to all that kind of stuff. So she's able to heal and clear things out of your system. And she's like an oracle. I mean, it's if you've ever watched The Matrix, it's so incredibly empowering to have these conversations and healing in the most beautiful ways. She basically can go in and just like unlock gifts and talents for you that have always, you maybe like hinted at and they've just been dormant. And she has the ability to just like tap you in the slightest nudging way, most loving way to just open up to all this stuff. So Guy actually did a workshop with her, a full 1-day workshop with her this weekend. So.
All right, I muted myself. Yeah. So I'll say this: it was with her and with this guy called Leo the King. His name is David. He's kind of actually a lot like me and you. He curses a lot. He's an absolute astrological monster, like just top to bottom, has super deep knowing of like astrology, celestial events. But he's like fun, right? He's got very charismatic and is kind of like rough around the edges and will make like lewd jokes and stuff. So it's like this interesting dynamic between Anna and her. And Anna's also just like a badass BZ.
Yeah.
So it was cool. A lot of what they shared has already been in my field because of like contact in the desert and like really like deep diving into all the like ET stuff. As far as like celestial events and stuff that's coming, but it's always interesting to hear it from kind of like a different energistic perspective. And I felt like that's kind of what they provided. They're trying to give like a holistic overview of like probable events that are coming and what it's like good to focus on and where we're getting this evidence from and why we're looking at transformation of the planet the way that we're looking at it, the celestial events that tie to it, the astrological events that have pointed to it for thousands of years, and how like all this stuff is like just written. It's like written. We're like along for the ride basically. So nothing was like eye-popping for me. What I've noticed both with Amateo and with her, just because of where I am in my own development, I start activating when I'm around them. Like their energy causes my activation. And in fact, it starts causing channeling for me. And I was there with Lauren too, who's like very sensitive, and it was like kind of the same thing for her. So it was just great to be in her space. I felt like imprinting happened. They got a really beautiful property in La Jolla that was nice to spend time at. And there were just great people there. And it's like, you know, people who are open to this kind of stuff and the conversations you could have around it. It's not like you can turn every corner, talk to every person and be like, hey, by the way, like, what are your ET experiences? You know? So it's like, and it's shocking how, and not shocking, it's beautiful how people are starting to have these kind of, you know, alternate experiences, and it's opening up to their spirituality and to like multi-dimensional and multi-universe spaces, and really just having people like ask new questions about the role that they're playing and how that plays into their own passions and alignment, and starting to live from like a much more holistic space. So that was it. Yeah, it was. I so trust my intuition about where I'm supposed to be at any given time. It was like this like beautiful day in San Diego, and everyone's like at pool parties and like beaches, and you know, and there's like house in La Jolla. I'm like, am I supposed to be here? And every time I would check in, it's like, yeah, you're just supposed to be here, and then just to receive whatever imprinting is available from that space. So yeah, we'll see what that provides, and I'm gonna hopefully hang out with her in the next day or two as well.
Cool. So that kind of leads into an interesting conversation that I think has just been happening to people in our space. So I just feel called to like share it, and I think that for those that are listening right now, I'm hoping that this will serve you guys. And what I wrote down is that you even mentioned, you know, like it's nice being around people that are open. And what I've been hearing around me a lot from other people, and maybe you can check in and see if this was your experience and for you guys as well, is that when we are in expansion mode, and I mean like, you know, the people that are in our Have It All Academy, the people that do one-on-one coaching with us, you expand at speeds by which A, you've never expanded, and B, it leaves people in a wake of just like they don't even know what's happening to you. And that sometimes, you know, Costa, you were watching the thing on the bed. It obviously leaves people that we love and care about in this kind of strange place where they don't even know how to interact with you anymore. And so what I've heard from a lot of people, and what I've sensed from a lot of people, is that they then seek to only be around those that are having similar conversations. And they tend to make everybody else wrong. It's like, I now have X, you don't have X, so you're less than I. And it leads to a lot of frustration and confusion and angst amongst the people in your life. And so I just wanted to bring that to the forefront because it was interesting. We kind of had a similar conversation today with one of our clients as well. And just checking with you guys, have you guys had that experience? Are you guys aware of what I'm talking about? That as you expand, it sometimes makes the relationships that you guys are having a bit difficult. You don't know how to respond. You feel like, oh my God, I've expanded all this way. And then every time I go back and interact with these people, you get made to feel really small, and like whatever work or transformation or something that you've done isn't real. You don't get validation, you don't get agreement, and then it kind of throws you all off. So I just want to check in with you guys. Is that something that you guys have experienced before as well? And bro, while they're writing, maybe you can speak to how that, if that in fact has been showing up in your space.
Yeah, I think it always shows up, right? Expansion, when you're choosing to expand, other people are not along for that ride. It definitely creates a sense of uneasiness for people. Look, the mind looks for anchor points of predictability and survival, which means, look, your friends, you say this, they're going to respond this way. You do that, they're going to respond that way. Even if you're not conscious of it, like subconsciously, you kind of just know like how to push people's buttons.
Yeah.
And when you alter your state, those buttons become unpredictable. Suddenly people don't know what's going to happen when they push that button, and that creates uneasiness for them. And that's something that as people who are working on this development work, like we need to get responsible for. It's not somebody else's job to then see you as this transformed being. Like it's up to you to start being that transformation. So if you go through like a transformative experience and you start using that as a new point of judgment, like how you're going to judge people through, like this is the new bar and now everybody needs to operate here. It's like, they don't. Like that's your prerogative. You're choosing that point of transformation. It doesn't make your transformation more right than the way that they're operating.
Yes.
And truly, I say this a lot with our students, like transformation is that all states are perfect.
Yeah.
The butterfly doesn't turn butterfly and look at the caterpillar and go, you piece of shit, like you're wrong, start flying. And like it shows that transformation how it's flying. Right. And it doesn't make it that any more wrong. So if you're operating from that place where you're using your transformation as a point of judging people, then it's, we say yesterday's breakthrough is today's ego trip.
Yep.
And it's a very easy trap to fall into because you can feel very righteous about transformation. And if you're doing that, then how is that really different than how you're operating before? Exactly. It's like now you're consciously judging people instead of before you're unconsciously judging people. I don't know which one's worse. So if you're doing that, then I would offer that you've gone through convergence. You haven't gone through transformation. And transformation is just, it's surrendering to all ways that all people are and surrendering to the entire human experience, not saying like this is the human experience. We have 7.5 billion people having clearly a lot of different experiences, love showing up differently, abundance showing up differently, different input, different output. So pleasure, I think personal pleasure comes from allowing all of it and not walking around with the high and mighty thing.
Yeah. So a few things I want to add. One is obviously the easy way out is to say, F everybody else. I'm just going to go hang out with the people that are easy to talk to, that now understand me, et cetera, et cetera. That's the easy way. And I don't say that as easy as in the right way. I'm just saying that's the easy way. Transformation happens when you can be the light that you say you are, or you can be love the way you say you are, or generosity the way you say you are in any circumstance with any group of people and in any situation. That's truly transformed. That means that we could drop you off in any room with any people across any world, and you need no agreement. You need no one to know who you are, no one to listen to you a certain way. You just get to be who you are regardless of the place, time, people, or circumstance. And that's the part that I think a lot of people especially those that are starting out on this journey, or people that work with us that expand really quickly, come up against at one point or another. And that's really why I wanted to bring this up today. Yeah, Mary's saying like the biggest training is always coming home for the weekend. Ask yourself, why is that? The reason is because the more history you have with a person, the more transformative work and communication needs to happen for that to be a shift in your life. And a lot of people make that wrong. And instead of seeing it as the opportunity for you to ultimately encapsulate your transformation so that it is part of you, they run away from that because it's difficult, right? This person doesn't see me the way I am now, or this person doesn't have an interest in what I'm doing now, or blah, 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 blah. So I shared a story today with one of our clients, and I was saying that I had a podcast, the Performance Enhancing podcast, the previous podcast, not our new one. I was running it for about 3 years. During that time, we probably produced close to 300 episodes. I think we stopped it at something like 289 or 292 or something in that vicinity. My wife, during that entire 3-year phase, listened to 1 or 2 episodes. Now, if I could tell you that I was transformed enough to not be offended by that or affected by that or thinking that my wife didn't support or love me a certain way, I'd be lying to you. It hurt. It hurt a lot. And it hurt especially when people like my parents listen to every single episode. It hurts when people like you, I know, are listening to episodes. I mean, the Have It All podcast, and I think I just posted it, I've had people reach out to me and tell me that they've listened to every episode multiple times because that's how much growth and development is happening. And so I'd be in these conversations with my friends, with my family, and they'd bring up an amazing episode. They're like, oh my God, that, thank you for introducing me to this person or this book and blah, blah, blah. And I would make underhanded kind of shitty comments, looking back at it, shitty comments about my wife not listening to the podcast. And what I realized is instead of actually having a conversation with her, again, I don't know if we spoke about it here or elsewhere, but when we're in relationships, we have a certain set of rules about the relationship and how that relationship is supposed to go. The problem is we don't tell the other person what those rules are. And so the other person, it's like you show up to a basketball court and you start playing basketball and you get pissed that the other person doesn't defend you or keeps shooting at the wrong basket or keeps throwing the ball out of bounds or keeping the ball, and you get pissed. And the whole time the person doesn't even know the game. It doesn't know the name of the game. He or she doesn't know how to play the game, nothing. So it's very similar to, when I teach my son a new game, like whether it's a board game or a sport or something, I don't have any expectation that he knows anything. In fact, I go in knowing that he knows nothing. And so there's no room for me to be upset. Like people with small kids or with animals or things like that, the reason we unconditionally love them is because in the back of our mind is always this thought like, they don't know any better. They're not doing it to you on purpose. They just don't know any better. And then something switches. And I think we think like that once somebody becomes a certain age, they should know all the rules to how to live life as an adult. And that's, I think, where the issue really lies, is we don't communicate the rules and things that matter to us. And so I had to sit down and get really honest with myself. And my wife and I had this beautiful conversation, which I recommend anyone that if you want a tremendous relationship with somebody in your life, here are the 3 things that you can ask. When do you feel the most loved by me? When do you feel the most accepted by me? And when do you feel the most supported by me? And vice versa, right? Like, when do you not feel loved by me? When do you not feel accepted by me? When do you not feel supported by me? So my wife and I did this exercise, and when it came time to answer, when do you not feel supported by me, the immediate, not having to even think about it, answer was, you don't listen to my podcast. And it hurts me. And I never said that it hurts me. And I had to get real with myself, because as I was saying it, it's interesting enough, and see if you guys can relate to this. Have you ever noticed that when you have something in your head, it sounds really, really accurate and really righteous and profound, and like, this is the way it is. And then you sometimes say it out loud to another person and you go, wow, that's fucking dumb. Like, I can't believe I've actually been thinking that. So I'm saying this to my wife, and as I'm saying it, I'm literally realizing the absurdity of it. Like, she doesn't listen to a podcast, and I've made that mean that she somehow doesn't support me. Meanwhile, this is a woman, just so you guys understand how spectacular she is. This is a woman that when I was living on unemployment checks, supported me in my crazy idea to join Guy and start a new business. And after 6 months, when I still wasn't making a penny, still allowed me to go for another 6 months. And after 6 months, when I was barely pulling out any money, still allowed me and carried me on her back, literally, for 2+ years, supporting our family so I could be doing this right here, right now. And I got hung up on the fact that she wouldn't fucking listen to a 30-minute podcast to value her support for me. Crazy. Like, and I'm sharing this with you guys because I want you to maybe check in for yourself. Like, what are the rules that you have with the people that you love in your life that A, they don't even know that they're rules, and B, you've never even communicated. And maybe in the process of communicating, you can actually see the absurdity of what it is that you've been hanging on to that literally puts a rift. And for everyone that knows my wife and I, like, even though that was there, we still had a beautiful, amazing, loving relationship. And I want you guys to get that there's still a rift there, right? Like, there's some residue that I'm carrying at some portion of me that doesn't allow me to love my wife fully, right? It's like, I love you, and I would love you way more if you did this. And in that conversation, I want to just finish the loop on this, and then I know I've been talking, so I'll let Guy say whatever he wants to say. In that process, I got to give up that this is some rule of mine. I got to give up that in order for me to feel support from her, this and this needs to happen. And I just let it go. And I have nothing about it, like literally nothing about it. And you want to know the irony of all of it, or I shouldn't say the irony, the perfection and universal law of all of it? In my letting go, it allowed her to choose for herself, not as in she had to do something for me. She got to choose for herself freely of any other consideration. And guess what? My wife now listens to the Have It All podcast and comes back to me and tells me how amazing it is and this and that. And this all, I'm telling you, this is like real. Like, this has just happened. This happened after I came back from Colombia. So we're talking in the last 3 weeks or so. Right? Like, after we had that conversation, maybe 4 or 5 days later, we're in bed and she goes, hey, babe, by the way, can you help install your podcast onto my phone? I was like, wow, amazing. And then a few days later, she's like, it's weird. It's not repopulating. You know, I've only had these for episodes. So like, I know she's actively listening without. And so why am I sharing this with you guys? I'm sharing this with you because you're responsible for doing the work. The people in your lives have not signed up for this game. You decided to go off the basketball court and go play football. And then you come back and you're like, why'd you come play football with me? And they're like, I'm not interested in football. In fact, I fucking hate football. And you're like, oh, you don't love me, you don't support me, this and that. They just don't like football. So if you could just bring this newness, like, right, love is the secret weapon of everything. Not the secret weapon. Weapon is such a wrong word. Love is the energy that could literally cure and heal anything. And if you can unconditionally love the person without trying to force them to do something or have any agenda around them doing something, but just love them with all of their cracks and imperfections and scars and beauties and amazing qualities, all of it. And you just love them exactly how they are and exactly how they're not. They will shine. They will be the person you've always dreamed them to be. And if that's the only thing to do is love on them. When they're shitty, when they're crappy, when they're bitchy, when they're being assholes, when they're yelling at you, love them. When they're tired, when they're mad, when they're frustrated, love them. Love them. That's it. Just love them. Love the ever-loving everything out there. And they will blossom.
Well, isn't it interesting, right? When we're being shitty, what do we want people to be? Gentle with us.
Uh-huh.
Not like, right? That just activates you more. So it's like, look, humans are humans. They're not going to be perfect. They're going to fail at meeting your expectations. And it's like, look, when you're being hard on yourself, also be gentle on yourself. It's like, again, treat others like you want to treat yourself is probably the most profound rule we have that nobody follows or very few people follow. I think what you're alluding to also is like how ineffective resistance is. You know, like you resist, my wife's not listening to my podcast, and it's like, all right, apply love. She is where she is. She's not where she's not. I love you anyway. And then it's like suddenly she's like taking that action, and like resistance didn't cause. I love cause that. You know, like you gave her space, you created a container, you told her what was important to you. And at the end of the day, it's like if you're in a relationship, any relationship, it's like we want to bring joy into each other's lives. We're not here to fucking destroy each other.
Yep.
Often there's things that are out of integrity or not being said or not being communicated. Even if they're being communicated like anger or complaints and stuff like that. Is just more of the anxiety and the worry just showing up in the space, which creates a space of like, I'm not safe. I need to survive this for people. And when people need to survive something, they don't want to take any action. They just want to fucking survive. They don't want to provide space for love and all these other things. So it's like the moment you give up your shit and you could just come back to a space of like, you know, really being in the presence of gratitude, acceptance, and love, which are the high frequencies, moving away from blame, shame, fault, which are the lowest frequencies. I really believe gratitude and love are the highest frequencies that as a human we can operate at.
Yep.
It's like, you know, Elon found a way to have appreciation, gratitude, and love for his wife, speak and communicate from that vibration. She feels that love because that's all any of us want is appreciation, love, and acceptance, both within ourselves and outside of ourselves, even though within is more important anyway. But like providing that container for other people so they can grow into their own love and appreciation of themselves. And then it's like, of course I want to like partner with you and bring joy into your life. Like, you know, in every relationship I'm in with women or have been in for the last 4 or 5 years, something I learned is men just want to make women happy. We just don't know how to fucking do it. So at the end of the day, it's exactly what you said. Like we have very different communication styles, and women operate much more in the energetic, subtle levels of vibration. Where men, it's like we're so in our head and about language and about understanding, creating formulas. So it's like at the end of the day, we want to make you happy, but because of the communication styles, we don't create a safe container for women to share with us that would actually make them happy. And what makes them happy often changes. And being okay with that also is just like you're malleable. It doesn't have to be the same fucking rules every day. How boring would that be? So. And it's like, hey, honey, like, I want to make you happy. Like, what are the types of things that make you happy? Give me the list. I will freaking do that shit every day because I want to. And again, it's just understanding these like subtle things that alter everything. And I just want to point to that transformation happens from us taking personal responsibility. Elon was not going to get the result he wanted by changing his wife. And he wasn't even trying to get a result. If he hadn't attached to, it needs to look like you listening to my podcast, it would have never gotten there. It needed to get to a space. I'm okay with all of it. However it shows up, whether you listen to it, whether you don't listen to it, like I'm completely detached from all that. I'm just here to like provide space for you and love you. And if at some point in time you're called to be part and participate, and that's great. If not, I'm going to love you just the same. And when you operate from that place, there's just nothing but love that's going to come through.
I just want to add, and so you guys understand, so I'm just going to call one out of myself. When I was in high school, my friend's nickname for me was God, and not in a good way, God, like I thought I was God and thus the center of the universe and everything revolved around me. So it wasn't a compliment. And my ego was so out of control that I actually took it as a compliment at that time. Like, it didn't occur to me that that was a bad thing. So one of my biggest transformations in life, and one of the things that I continuously work on is, luckily, you know, having kids is a great way to handle this. But the way my brain and mind worked was generally always focused on me. What is in it for me? What is best for me? What works for me? And it took very little consideration into those around me. And this is, I'm telling you guys, even so I did my first personal development work when I was 21 years old. And it wasn't like I got that and the switch went off. I got a layer of that, and it's just been unfolding and unfolding and unfolding ever since. A lot of things that come very, very naturally to people, I have to do a lot of work to do that, or it occurred like I have to do a lot of work. And so when I was in Colombia, one of the nights I actually carried someone in my arms on this like rocky path, like hill thing, all the way back to their room. And my wife, for pretty much all the years that we've been at our home, which is, 8 years or so, every once in a while, like we'll be in the TV room. She goes, "Elon, will you carry me upstairs?" And it kind of became this running joke because I would always say no, and she would always ask, and I would always say no. And then meanwhile, like this other person who was there with us was just, not doing well where they could walk, and like there was no even thought process in my mind. Is like, yeah, I'm going to do this 100%. And so I'm walking. As I'm walking with this person, I'm thinking to myself, well, I can do this just fine. Like, I have all these excuses about, we have steps and it's dangerous and with my wife. And meanwhile, like, we're on some fucking rocky, jagged, not lit hill. And I'm like, no problem, right? So I called my wife right away and I was like, you know what? When I come home, any time you want me to carry you upstairs, I will carry you upstairs. Another thing that occurred to me, kind of in the same vein, is that my wife likes foot massages, and I'm not a bit like, I don't know what it is. Certain people love feet. I'm not a big foot person. Like, I'm not grossed out by feet where I can't touch them. I also just don't love touching feet. It's not like my thing. And so every time she's like, give me a foot massage, give me a foot massage, I'm always so hesitant and resistant. And I want to just share with you guys some shifts that I've made. Again, and I'm telling you, because these haven't come naturally to me. I've reprogrammed these things in my mind to completely bypass anything about myself with them. It has nothing to do with whether I like feet or not, whether I am tired to carry my wife or not. I know that by the act of doing that, the woman that I love the most in this lifetime, and many others, hopefully, she feels loved. She feels supported. She feels connected to me. And if that means doing something just for the sake of that, that's worth everything. And just like, you could do that with your kids. You could do that with your parents. You could do that with your brother. You could do that with whomever. There's a really big awakening for me. And look, some of you guys might hear this and go like, that's not even a fucking big deal. Like, I do that stuff all the time. And great, keep doing it. I'm just telling you, for me, that stuff is not natural. Like I had to really work on that. And so there's something in your life also that doesn't come natural, that if you took a step back and looked at it, you would see, okay, this is something that someone's been asking me for a long time, and I've been resisting giving this to them because of X, Y, and Z. And what I want to hopefully offer you is to take a look and experiment on what your life would be like if you did offer that and gave up all that other stuff. There's a really, really amazing, juicy connection that you've been robbing yourself of because you've been right about a whole bunch of justifications.
Yeah, and I think it's important to highlight what you said at the end there. 1 second. You know what, can you actually do me a favor?
Yeah.
I'm going to log off this and log on my phone because my battery's going to die here.
Okay.
Can you just upgrade that other account?
The one, yeah.
Thank you.
You good there? Yep.
Cool. So yeah, I think what you highlighted at the end there is probably the most important thing, which is what we give up for being right about stuff. I mean, if you consider the things that are probably most important to people, it's self-expression, power, freedom, connection, vitality, health, love, all those things. And guys, just like look for yourself in your own life. When you're being righteous, when you're being right about something, you're sitting across the table and you're getting heated and opining about something, are you having the experiences of power, freedom, self-expression, health, vitality, love, or any of those things? Is any of that present to you? Or do you literally give all that stuff for one stupid thing, which is to be right about something? So Elon and I say this all the time. You could be right, or you could be rich. You could be right, or you could be in love. You could be right, or you could be anything. You could be right, but you just don't have the fucking life that you want. And there's nothing, if life lived in a beautiful way, in a connected way, in a connected to God type of way, connected to spirit kind of way, connected to your manifestation powers kind of way, your superpowers, all that stuff happens, I believe, sourced in integrity, responsibility, and surrender. None of that stuff is present when you're right. So it's like you have two different foundations, the righteousness or surrender, basically. And I think responsibility and integrity happen inside the world of surrender. So we'll just say it as one thing. And that's kind of the war we're dealing with within ourselves is, am I surrendering, or am I trying to control the outcome by being right about stuff? And that means like being right about the way the world is, being right about the way that God is, being right about the way people are, being right about the way money is, being right about the way politics is. Every time you're right about something, it kills off every other possibility in your life from entering it and having a more expansive type of view. So all that stuff comes from, if you look like at yourself and everyone's walking down their path, like everyone's on a path, right? And while you're walking down a path, you need a few things to do it properly. You need both your legs and you need your eyes. So if you think about your eyes like faith and your legs as devotion, if you're walking down a path and all you have is faith but no devotion, you can see where you're going, but you can't walk anywhere, you got no legs. If you just have devotion but no faith, you have your legs but you don't have eyes, so you're constantly veering off the path. So both are a requirement, and they both lead to surrendering to just walking down the path and letting it unfold as it is. So inside that space, there's this phenomena of when you're listening to conversations like these, or Gene Keys or Anna or any of these experiences that expand you, it's not necessarily even about understanding what's happening to you. It's about trusting the imprint process. Because if you're trying to understand it, most likely you're trying to understand it because you're going to go back into looking good and being right about something. Because like, well, I want to understand this because I want to share this with people because it's going to look good. I'm going to sound really good at dinner parties, instead of just trusting the vibrational change that's happening inside of you. And what that looks like is a widening of your path. So again, if you're walking down this path with devotion and faith, where possibility comes in is by having an expanded path to look at. Your job is to be a container to receive, which basically means all you got to do is just take notice. Like if I'm walking down a path and the path is wider, I'm just going to notice more shit. That's it, right? And because I'm noticing more stuff, it's going to give me access to more things, or like more ways of being. And that's really all there is to it. And the mind really wants to complicate things through understanding and creating formulas. And again, it's all about creating some predictability for the mind, because predictability is survival.
And I will say and offer that there is a much more beautiful, profound, expansive, beautiful, connected life that's available to everybody in the space of giving up the right to need to understand anything and just living purely from an intuitive space where things are coming through you. There's a vibrational frequency in the body. You align with it, and then you take action in accordance with that vibrational frequency, and it's going to occur like a natural pulling versus a pushing, which happens through the mind to make stuff happen, to control and manipulate outcomes. And people who are operating that way are the same people as, you know, I make this analogy a lot of like people who are like swimming upstream. You're exhausted. It's exhausting to decide in your life all the time. It's exhausting to try to make the river flow the way that you think that it should. Swimming against the stream. You go home every fucking day, you're tired. Your relationships suck. You're not living in passion. You're not expressing yourself properly. You're not creative. You're not sharing. And unfortunately, most of the world is operating from this space right now. I'm working at creating and designing systems that will move our paradigm away from adhering to how much can you take and be resilient as a conversation that we're having globally, like, oh, you're so resilient, I'm so proud of you, to really how much pleasure can you take? People are terrible at accepting pleasure. They're wonderful at accepting pain. And then we look at each other and we clap and we go, yay, look how much you've been through. You've been through just as much as me. You're so good. And you really need to have that conversation anymore when it's really like on the opposite side of that is like, can you have a fucking cosmic orgasmic pleasure in your life at all times, experience love and your creative and your self-expression at the highest level and allow for more and more greater in that area of your life? There's a really, really beautiful phenomenon when you just start allowing and accepting and having self-worth around your personal pleasure.
I love the whole thing about receiving. I mean, it just resonates with everything that we've been talking about. It's like, just to map that onto my story, to make it real for you guys, right? Like in the world of receiving, if we want to take it from that example, if you think about like my story about my wife not supporting me, right? That was blocking my ability to receive her full love. So if you think that your natural state, your perfect natural state, when you're born as a baby, you are just a receiving everything, right? Like everything is given to you. You receive fully.
There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do.
There's nothing to do, right? And then you get older, and as you get older, your ability to receive gets shifted. Okay, I can only receive X if it comes this way.
Or when I act this way, right? Yeah. Or if I get approval, then I'll receive.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Or, you know, like one of our favorites, and this was a huge breakthrough for Guy and I, probably about 2 or so years ago, was we had it that the only way we could receive abundance was if we worked our fucking asses off. Like in order to be abundant, you had to work really, really hard. And many of you, because of a lot of the things that you probably see online with people like Gary Vee, and by the way, I love Gary Vee. This is not to take anything away from him. And, you know, people like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone and these guys where it's all like hustle, grind, which is, it's a way. It's a way. And I would offer you guys that Guy and I have done less work this past year than we've ever done and are making more money and causing more transformation in the world and more impact in the world than we ever have. And I think here's and I don't know this to be true. What I'm about to say, I really don't know this to be true. And here's what I can, just from a lot of the stuff that we've read and things like that. What are you more attracted to? Are you more attracted to as a human being to someone who's just like grinding it out every day and working 100-hour weeks to make money? Or do you gravitate more towards someone who can work 3-4 hours a day maybe and produce extraordinary results and at the same time live amazing life and have incredible relationships and still produce world-changing results. Like, what are you more drawn to? And I think the reason that people have literally like private messaged us and like coming out of the woodworks, people that I had no idea even knew who we were, asking for our coaching and asking to work with us. And it's not like before I had this very rigid way of thinking, like we had to do X, Y, and Z to attract this person. We had to do and set up this and set up that in order to work with these people. And Guy and I have just really just given all of that up. Like, what if that wasn't the case? What if it wasn't the case that that's how the world worked? What if the way the world worked was you just had to focus on being your happiest, most awesome, loving, giving self? And by you being that in the world, you naturally start vibrating at a higher frequency, which attracts higher frequency results, right? And so if the only work you actually had to do, or not had to, but the only work you had the opportunity to do was your internal work to raise your vibration and every day be more and more in that positive state, because you know that when you're in that positive state and you can get into that flow, the universe and the multiverse and God and whoever you want to call it sends you the abundance. Wouldn't you really focus on that versus like, I have to make 100 calls today, or I have to do this, this, and this? You know what? Like a person who's truly connected, and Vishen talks about this in Code of the Extraordinary Mind. He was the #1 salesperson in this company. And while other people had the same lists and same everything that he had access to, he meditated and tapped in, and he would this is how he explained it. He would literally like let his finger scroll down the page. And where his finger stopped, that's who he would call, because he knew that was the perfect person to speak to right now. And everybody else was like, energy this person, energy this person, energy this person, energy this person. He had the least amount of phone calls of anybody in the company, and he made the most amount of money of anybody in the company. Now, while some people would be like, that's crazy, or that's unbelievable, or he's just lucky, what if it's none of that? What if it's just when you tap into that flow, when you're in that energistic state, that's what you attract? Obviously, the person that he was going to call on the other end was going to respond a certain way because he was vibrating at a certain frequency. And I would venture to say that the people that follow us and are in our academy and things like that and choose to work with us is because they see the next level of their vibration that they're striving for. And so they do want to surround themselves with like-minded people who are having this vibrational pull, right? And that's what I want to offer you guys. Like, don't make, just to wrap this full circle, like, don't make a higher vibrational frequency right and a lower vibrational frequency wrong. Don't make transformation right. Exactly, Tori, power versus force. Don't make transformation right and people who are not transformed wrong. It's just your game. Your vibration has pulled you here to this Facebook Live now for a reason. You've read the books that you have for a reason. All for your growth and development, all for your ability to see opportunities in every single thing that's showing up in your life, because you're the one that's created it for your highest self, for your best good. And the more you can get that and operate from that place and love, just like I said, love every person unconditionally, love the situations unconditionally. Be in love with what you call a bad circumstance. You know, there's a statement that happens in our house. Every time something happens, something breaks, someone falls, someone loses a game. You know what my kids started saying? This is how I learn. Mistakes is how you learn. You should get really excited about making mistakes. You should get really excited about the things that irk you and bother you. That's your next growth opportunity. And if you could bring that kind of unconditional love to that, guys, the speed and velocity by which you can move through stuff is incredible when you live in that state. Everything is like, give me more, give it to me now, I am ready. Versus, I don't want this, this is too much, this feels bad, right? So what happens? Universe goes, okay, slow down the lessons for this being. They can't handle it. And so you stay in the same thing over and over and over and over, longer and longer. And you're like, why is my life this? Because you've chosen it. Because you would rather be comfortable or righteous about the negative circumstances in your life than see everything as an opportunity for your highest self, your soul self, to grow and develop this lifetime. You've chosen this experience. You've chosen your body. You've chosen where you live. You chose your parents. You chose your friends. You chose your occupation, all to have a certain experience of physicality that you get to take back then into your soul life with you. And so if you know that to be true and you honor that, then everything that shows up is a gift, especially the things that piss you off. All right.
Powerful. Great share, man.
So final thoughts.
I kept losing signal, so I had to move it around a bit.
No worries.
Yeah. Final thoughts. Yeah, that's powerful, right? It's just making, it's not about making yourself wrong. It's about just keep noticing and keep optimizing. It's just like marketing, right? We're split testing all the time. Mm-hmm. If every time you build a sales funnel and it's not working, you freak the fuck out. You start judging it. You start looking at what's wrong with it. It's not about that. It's about what's missing right now that would make a difference. And just doing the small things that optimize the funnel. We're all funnels walking around, marketing and selling ourselves. And I think that make wrong, that righteousness, both sides of that coin, just slow down the velocity. So it's like, guys, you can either make stuff happen through the world of doing, and it's like having a hose that's going to trickle out some shit into your life, and that's how most of the planet is living right now. Or when we say like living in flow, it's like standing under a waterfall. What you have to deal with is how much is coming at you and managing the container that can hold all the beauty that's coming into your life. It's kind of going on for me right now. I'm like in the state of like overflow. And that's just the cycle. It's like, then there's that overflow, and then it's managing that container, building a bigger container, building, like closing down old structures and breaking them, creating new structures that can withstand that container, and then creating again and experiencing that water flow. And over and over again, most people are just so like, you think you want all that stuff, and then it starts happening and it scares the shit out of you, and you go back into survival mode because you're uncomfortable when things are beautiful. When there's so much coming at you at one time, the other side of it is it's being a little bit uncomfortable. So yeah, I really loved everything you shared, and I thought it was super powerful and even worth listening to a few times over.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So much love for every single one of you. If you found this powerful, if this moved you, please like, comment, and absolutely share this with your friends. We love to share these kind of messages with the world. Again, our game is raise the vibration of this planet. And the only way to do that is touch every single one of you. And right, like if you got that your only true job in life was to be the best version of yourself, that's it.
And receive pleasure.
Like, you know, what would your life look like? And so if that resonates with you, if there's other people in your life that you feel like that would resonate with, please share them. Please share this with them. And if you want to find out more about our academy, I know there's a bunch of you guys in here that are in here. So if you guys that are in the academy want to just drop a quick blurb, testimonial in there of like your experience of it, so that those of you guys can read up on it, just head over to youwillhaveitall.com. It's all spelled out, youwillhaveitall.com.
You could also go to SatoriPrime.com/coaching.
Okay. Or SatoriPrime.com/coaching and see what it's all about. We would love to be able to share this with you and raise the vibration one human being at a time. All right.
Awesome, people. We'll see you in a few days. Love you guys.
Have an amazing one.
Bye, everybody.